Hello, everyone. Welcome to another BookTrib live chat. I'm Sarah, your host, and it's my pleasure today to introduce you to Micheline Nader. She's the author of the best-selling book, The Dolphins Dance. Discover your true self through a 5-step journey into conscious awareness. Today, we're actually giving away a copy of the book on BookTrib. So after the chat, head over to booktrib.com to enter to win. Micheline, for a little info about who she is. She's a successful healthcare entrepreneur, and she's also a new voice in the world of personal transformation. And her book is really resonating, with viewers across the U.S. So we're very excited to have her here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so excited to be with you live on this chat today.
Yes. So before we get going with some viewer questions, I wanted to ask you to introduce us to the Dolphins Dance.
So the Dolphins Dance is a self-empowerment, experiential 5-step journey into conscious awareness. Actually, it gives the readers a simple tool and an access to really break through the limitations of the past, of their beliefs, of their patterns, of their thoughts, and it connects them to their purpose in life.
So what kind of person, would go through the Dolphins Dance process? What would they be looking for?
Could you repeat your question, Sarah?
Oh, sure, no problem. I asked, what would a person be searching for? What would they be searching for through the Dolphins Dance process?
A person through the Dolphins Dance process would look at a self-empowerment, self-expression, and a total freedom from past limitations. So
it's a healing process.
it could be a healing process. It could be a totally self-expression. It could be connecting also to the true self and connecting to conscious awareness.
Oh, interesting. Now, so there are 5 steps in the journey. Can you tell us what those 5 steps are?
The 5 steps in the journey follow the acronym DANCE. D stands for discover your emotions. A stands for awaken to your beliefs. N stands for naming your patterns. C stands for canceling your polarities, and E for embracing your true self.
Now, how did you come up with this process?
This process was really a life journey. It started when I was really young through my losses. I had a lot of losses in my life that I wanted to make, peace with. But actually, and I really, since very young, since my teenage years, I was on a self-empowerment journey and self-transformation. I call myself, I am like a self-empowerment, self-help junkie. So I did a lot of spiritual readings and a lot of workshops and a lot of this and that. But really, life journey is my greatest experience. And I feel every time I went through a crisis, it was an opportunity for me to remove one of the layers that were there. And through my, personal and professional journey, I came into grip to some elements of the Dolphins Dance. And when I put them in practice and I coached people with them, they were very powerful. So that's how it started. And then I connected the dots with a dream that I had early on when I started my journey. And that vision and that dream came all together into creating the Dolphins Dance process.
Oh, great. So you're saying that you actually used these elements when coaching in a corporate environment?
Yes, I did use these elements to coach my leadership team, board members, friends and family and colleagues. And every time I coached, even unconsciously, sometimes not really being aware that I was using these elements, created a big breakthrough with the person who was coached. So I knew that there was something for people there, and I needed to share. So when the process became mature enough to be able to share it with the readers, as I did for the last 3 months since the Dolphins Dance book was published, then it was really time to just give away everything in my life and start writing the process. So I sold my successful business and I gave myself to my passion, and this is how the Dolphins Dance got created.
Oh, great. Now, what is the metaphor for the dolphin? Why did you decide to use a dolphin in the process?
I started by saying that I had a vision and a dream. It was like 20 some years ago. And at the end of this vision that I explained really in the book, I was meditating on what was my next step in life. And then I saw a dolphin. So it didn't make sense to me, like why dolphin when you're meditating on a professional mission in life. And a few
Mm-hmm.
hours later, my friend came and to have lunch with me, and she brought me the dolphin. And since then, the dolphins became a big metaphor in my life. I started researching the dolphins, swimming with dolphins, and when I started writing this process, it was really apparent to me that it was the best metaphor, because the dolphin, through first of all, the brain of the dolphin is very well developed. The three lobes of the dolphin, the ability of the dolphin to sleep and being awake at the same time, is a great metaphor for conscious awareness. Its dive reminds us to dive deep. Its flow with the water makes us like think of the flowing with conscious awareness. And the flip of the dolphin that I use a lot in the last part of the Dolphins Dance, when we're ready to transform our game in life, is a great also visual for us to visualize the flip of the dolphin and be able to flip also our game in life.
Oh, that's great. You know, a lot of people have that kind of connection with dolphins, and, you know, almost a spiritual connection. And personally, I think it's a terrific metaphor for that kind of work. I have a question here from Alex. Alex says, since we're constantly evolving, how do you make sure you're keeping up with your own spiritual health?
This is a very good question, Alex. I love what you've asked, because oftentimes people think that because I wrote on conscious awareness that I'm totally conscious aware and I don't need any work, which is really not true. This process gives us access and an easy tool to be able to transform our game. So every time I am present to an emotional logo, we haven't discussed it in our chat today, but it's very well discussed in the book, where we really retrieve the emotion from our past experience, our negative emotion. If I'm present to a negative emotion, a negative pattern of behavior, I am able immediately to identify it, because I've already retrieved my emotional logo, I've retrieved my identity signature, and I'm aware that what I'm present to is an emotion from the past. So then I have the choice to flip it and change it and use the last two steps of the dance to do it, which is cancel the polarity from your experiences. And this is where we cancel the negative charge from our experience, and then retrain our brain in a way, create a new pathway into a new pattern. The more we experiment with this and the more we do it, then the more we create new pathways and we replace the old patterns with new patterns of behavior. I hope I answered your question.
Great. I think you did. Now, here is a question from Kristen. You mentioned behavioral patterns, and she asks, what are some good behavioral patterns? Because there are bad ones that I believe we identify through the dance. So what do good ones look like?
So a good behavioral pattern is a behavioral pattern that empowers us into being totally self-expressed and into responding to situations and not reacting to them. In the first steps of the dance, we're interested in the negative patterns because these negative patterns are the ones that limit our expression and limit our future, limit our choices. But if we do apply the steps of the dance, first of all, even if we apply the first 3 steps of the dance where we awaken to these patterns, then the patterns do not get hold of us, do not control us. We control them because we are aware of them. It doesn't mean that they're going to disappear, but it means that we have control over them. In the last 2 steps of the dance, this is where we have a choice to act on them by canceling the negative charge and by embracing our true self, which is very well explained in the Dolphins Dance with exercises and experiential method to help the reader access this. Then we are able to create these positive behavioral patterns. Which means that these positive behavioral patterns come from the domain of infinite possibilities, that they do not come from fear, they do not come from negative emotions or negative experience, and they help us move our game forward in life.
Now, I want to go back a little bit to the title here and talk about conscious awareness. This is a question from Susan, and she wants to know if you can identify what conscious awareness is.
Conscious awareness is really, in simple terms, becoming conscious of what is playing at ourselves moment by moment. It's really inside every one of us. There is this supreme conscious awareness that we can tap into. Conscious awareness is not something that we get. It's something that we unravel inside ourselves to find. It's really that consciousness that we bring to our actions moment by moment. It's very simple.
Now, Emily Santo has a good question here. She says, would you say that you deal with your emotions in a pragmatic way? Is that what the dance does?
Yes, this is what the dance does. First of all, the Dolphins Dance makes you aware by retrieving your emotional logo of what is the emotion that is playing in your life. So the moment you're feeling a negative, you know that you're not in the present moment. You know that it's a negative experience that is coming from the past. So the Dolphins Dance, by distinguishing that emotion, you know then where it came from. And also it gives you an access, it gives you the choice. If you want to work on this emotion, if you want to transform your emotion, then you have a choice to do so in the moment. Now, if you don't want to and you want to pay the price of not wanting to transform your emotion and stay in that negative emotion, at least you're aware, you're consciously aware of what you're wanting. No one is gonna, force you into doing something that you don't want. This is your life and your self-discovery and your choice of applying conscious awareness to your life moment by moment. And your choice if you want to transform it and create new pathways and new behavior and also create an action plan and also a response to events in your life that really do not come from the past. Because if we continue coming from the past, what's going to happen? We're repeating the past. So we're getting the same experience over and over again. We have 70,000 thoughts per day, and 95% of these thoughts are repetitive thoughts. So if these thoughts are negative thoughts, they're going to create the same behavior. that we had. They're going to create the same pattern. So being aware of these negative emotions and even going further by choosing to transform them and create new pathways in our brain and in our pattern changes our life. So it depends, where do we want to take our life? Do we really want to change our life? And if so, then we choose conscious awareness, and we choose also to transform those limitations that we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned a few things. You mentioned identity signature, emotional logo. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by those terms?
The emotional logo is a construct actually that I created in the Dolphins Dance for the reader to construct their emotional logo, so they will have an easy access whenever an emotion is at play in their life. We go back in the first stages of the Dolphins Dance to the marker, what I call marker, which is a painful event in our childhood. And we actually distinguish from that marker that painful emotion that I call sticker, because it sticks to us. It comes back whenever a similar event in our life is triggered. And also I go further to really the sensation, the vessel where this emotion is being enacted in our body that could help us also in our health. So that would constitute our emotional logo. And once we have constructed this emotional logo, then it becomes accessible to us. So whenever we have this emotion, as I said, we don't have to just like go dig deep every time we have it at the tip of our fingers, and we really can, know if we're identifying with, or we're ready to transform it. Now, from this emotion and from this trauma, actually, came our limitation and our limited belief system about ourselves. And this is where I call the verdict, because from there, if we connect the dots, actually, we can go back to that limiting belief about ourselves. Like every one of us has this little voice that can tell them sometimes you're not good enough, not enough of, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not worthy enough. So we go to the roots of that verdict. And that verdict also gave us a strategy in life that wanted to mask our game and show something that probably we don't want people to know what our negative belief is about ourselves. So that becomes our belief matrix. This belief has really given us our pattern, because the beliefs has given us the action, and the repetitive actions have given us our patterns in life. So we also identify this pattern. So all these become our identity signature, at least what we think our identity is in our life. But this is not our true self. This is what we think that our true self is. This is our illusion of our true self. And the more we identify with our true self, the more we identify with our identity signature, the less we identify with our true self. So by constructing the identity signature and knowing the elements of the identity signature, if a behavioral pattern is at play, if I'm saying like, why am I reacting the same way today with this person, and I don't want to react that way, this could be a behavioral pattern. So we immediately have a trigger, and we know what is being enacted, and we're able to identify it and transform it in our life.
Well, that's great. It seems like a very useful way to categorize these different feelings and emotions that we have and beliefs that we have. I haven't heard of something like that, and I think it's incredibly useful. I have an interesting question here from Allie. She asks, does prayer ever come into play when talking about spirituality? And I'm wondering if you can address that for us.
Do you mind just rephrasing your question a little bit, Sarah?
She asks whether prayer it has anything to do with spirituality. I think we can think about maybe religion, if religion and spirituality is the same thing. Does somebody need to have a certain set of beliefs to practice the Dolphins dance or do spiritual work?
Okay, so prayer is very important. Spirituality and religions are not the same. Religion is really a consensus, consensual belief system. Spirituality is our direct experience with a source. So if prayer is coming from a place where we are really connecting with the source, if we are identifying with the source, if prayer is coming from a place of love and gratitude and compassion, prayer is very, 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 very powerful. If prayer is coming from a place of asking because we don't deserve, if it is coming from a place of asking because of we can't do it and we are helpless and we don't believe that our prayer is going to be answered, then that prayer is not as powerful. But it depends how prayer is considered. But prayer is very important. If we believe in something that is greater and more powerful than what seems to be us, and that is connected to us, and prayer is beautiful. Prayer is really the connection with our true self. And in the Dolphins Dance, we realize that the more we discover our true self and the more we connect to our true self, the more we're connecting to higher consciousness. And by connecting to higher consciousness, it's a constant prayer. It's a constant prayer in life. Thank you for this question. It's beautiful.
It was. Now, you're an author of, spiritual self-help nature. Now, who are some authors that have really inspired you?
I was inspired by a myriad of authors since I was very, very young. Like at 17 years old, I was reading T. Lobsang, Grandpa, the Lama Buddhist, name them. I call myself a spiritual self-empowerment junkie because I was looking for something outside of myself. I mean, Wayne Dyer could be one, Eckhart Tolle could be another one. Buddha could be the teachings of the Tibetan Buddhism. I mean, the teachings of Jesus Christ, the Kabbalah, every single metaphysical area of religious studies is great. But again, I was a spiritual and a self-transformation junkie because I was looking for something outside myself. The minute I discovered my true self, I think I then connected to an all-knowing inside of me. So now when I read authors, I'm more in awe how they express their feelings, how they're bringing another dimension to the reader, because all of us have voices, and I'm sure those of you who are listening today have great voices, and we need to hear them because maybe your voice can connect to mine. So today I'm inspired by everyone who is on a spiritual journey, connecting to their true self and connecting to their passion in life.
What a wonderful answer. We're just about out of time. Thank you so much for sharing with us about the Dolphins Dance. Everyone, it is available on Amazon. We're also giving away one copy on BookTrib.com, so head over after this. You can find Micheline on Twitter. Her handle is Micheline K. Nader. You can find her on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Micheline Nader author. Again, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sarah. It was my pleasure.